looking like this? Tell me, am I looking like this? No, not at all.
Hey, what's going on, you beautiful people? My name's Tie-Dye. I hope you guys had a pretty awesome day today. My day's been pretty awesome so far. So, today for you guys, I thought we could do another low poly tutorial within Cinema 4D and Photoshop. Today we're going to be covering this low poly planet. A lot of you guys have been very interested in this planet. And it is something a little bit more simple, but a lot of you guys have been asking it. It does have to do with a bit of modeling as well, so it is a great tutorial for people who are both just starting to learn and need to get a bit more experience as well. So, hopefully you guys can learn a lot of cool stuff from this. Like I said, it is pretty simple. I won't be covering every single thing that you see here. I'm going to mostly be covering just the planet itself and then the trees and the homes and stuff like that. I have covered stuff like that in other tutorials, so I'll just link to other videos where you can find out how to do those as well. But anyways, guys, let's jump into Cinema 4D. This is just a blank file right here, absolutely nothing in there. And the first thing that we're going to do is just drop in a sphere. Now it's just a normal sphere, don't really need to scale it up or anything. I think I might a little bit, just change it from radius of 100 to about 250, just so it's a bit bigger, and that's roughly about the size of the thing that we were working with in this image, just to keep things in a little bit of a perspective as to what we were doing before. First thing we want to do with this is, of course, since we're working with low poly, is delete this thing right here called the Fong tag. You'll find it right beside your sphere that you imported. It's just the two little orange dots, so you just click on that, press backspace, it's gone. And what that does is it allows us to render it without being a perfect sphere. The other thing we need to do to make sure that's true is uncheck render perfect here under the sphere. So now when we render it out, it's not going to be perfectly rounded. Actually, you can see all the different segments. And the next thing that we want to do is find a type. So there's all these different types here. You have a bunch of names that I'm not going to try and pronounce because I know I'm not going to get them right. I think that the one based on octahedron, I believe that's how you say it. That's the one that I used for the one before. And the segments of 24 is roughly what I had. So the size of 250 with 24 segments is what I believe I did actually use for this image right here. So now that we have that, we have the basic shape of what we had before. The same segments, the same size, everything like that. And now it's time to actually start modeling what we need to do to turn this into a planet. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you click the sphere and either hit this button right here where it's sort of, I don't even know how to describe that image. It's sort of a perfect sphere turned into an editable sphere, or you can just press C. And what that does is it actually makes the object itself editable. And that means we can change the points, change a bunch of different things, but it also means that we can't go back and change the segments. So make sure that you do that first if you're not too comfortable with it. If not, you can probably duplicate it and make one that you can go back to, but I think this should be perfectly fine right now. So the first thing that you notice when looking at this image is the river that's going through. And it's actually really simple to do this. The technique that I used was I had this first sphere here, and then I clicked on it holding Control or Command, depending if you're on a Mac or a PC. I just hold Control or Command, click on our sphere, and drag up to make a duplicate layer. Now, it's pretty simple. It just means we have two spheres now. I'm going to start making some textures just so it's easy to identify the two. The first one is going to be the land itself. I'm going to do that by making a nice sort of grassy kind of green, nothing too crazy. And of course, kill the specular when working with low poly, just makes it look a little bit more clean. And drag that on top of there, which I guess should be the sphere up here. Yes, no, maybe. Anyways, this sphere now, what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna scale it up so we can see it a bit more. Actually, no, I'm just gonna turn off the one that is the grass. And what I'm gonna do is make another texture, and I'm going to make this one blue for the water. And of course, with water, you do want it to have a specular, so I'm going to put on specular. I'm also going to put on reflection, just a very, very mild reflection, and no transparency because there's nothing we want to see underneath of that. I'm going to slap that onto this sphere, and from there, what I want to do is make this sphere smaller. So pretty much just going to drag it, make it a bit smaller, and as long as it sort of keeps that nice sphere shape. I know I probably should have shrunk it down before I actually made it editable, but honestly, it really isn't going to be that big of a deal. As long as you get it to be roughly a sphere, that should be good. So now when we turn on this layer, it's bigger, so we now have an idea as to what's going to be going on. The water is going to be underneath. We're just going to push the grass down and have a nice water layer underneath of that. So the way that we're going to do that is I'm going to put the grass layer on top, and I'm going to select this on the side here. Actually, first I'm going to select this little mouse cursor, then select this, it's sort of a cube with one of the faces being highlighted, and what this does is allows us to select the face or whatever and do what we want with that, which is cool. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be making a little path for our stream. And you can do this in any way that you want to. I'm just going to find a side, because as you can see on the sides here, it tends to be a little bit different as far as the pattern goes. Like it connects right there into a diamond. I don't want it like that. I'm going to find a nice smoothened out side. And what I'm going to do is just draw a one triangle width path in which the water can be running through. And obviously, it looks good to have some curves. And if there's something you don't like, you just control click on it and it goes away. I think I'm actually just going to undo that because that looked a little sloppy. I just want it to be a nice little curved out, just something a little funky. And then you can let go of the click if you'd like and just rotate it around. And the reason I want to do this all the way around is in case you want to animate it. That way you can have everything done. And holding shift once you unclick is how you can control, or not control, continue doing what you were doing before. And like I said, if there's stuff that you don't like, just press command, undo that, because that's obviously a little sloppy. We don't want a giant pool at the bottom there where no one can even see it. And holding shift, like I said, continuing along our path. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, just a straight line. It's really nothing too insane, really. Very, very, very simple stuff, like I said. This isn't a crazy tutorial at all. And then just connecting it. And I just want to make sure I get my camera back to the position that we want to. So now that we have that, what we're going to be doing here is right-clicking, going to extrude, and then dragging it in by holding left or right. Or not holding left, right. Dragging your mouse left or right while holding it down. And as you can see, now we have the water there. What I'm actually going to do is make this sphere a bit bigger because that is very, very small. So just make sure you select the whole object once you're doing this, and you'll be able to make it bigger again because that is way too small for my likings. And once you have something you like, let's see. That looks pretty good in my opinion. Don't really need anything else other than that. Maybe make it a bit wider, bit fatter, bit taller. And that should be good. Now the next thing that we want to do is, as you can see, is there's a little bit of brown around here, which is just very, very simple to do. It's the same technique as we did before, sort of with the selecting of the river. We're going to be going back to our surface icon, going to our green sphere, and just clicking on all these little inside panels, making sure we hold shift while doing so, just because it's not something that you can easily do just dragging. So make sure we select all of these, at least all the visible ones. You don't have to go all the way around. That's just a little bit of an overkill, if you ask me. Make sure it's everything that you will be seeing within your image, and both sides, of course, as well. I'm just trying to get everything that I can here. And it's just sort of give that, or it's, bleh, what am I saying? It's just gonna sort of give it that that earthy feel, because obviously the grass is the outside, and then the inside of the earth is full of dirt. So we're just gonna be going for very simple, very low poly, very minimal look, and a lot of you guys really seem to like it. I didn't expect this speed art in particular to do very well because I was doing it just for an order that I got, and you guys really seem to like it. So a lot of you guys asked for a tutorial, and that's exactly what I'm going to bring you guys. So as you can see, now we have everything that we're going to be seeing selected. Let me just double check. Yep, everything we're going to be seeing selected. So I want to make a new texture, and we're simply just going to change the color from green, because I just duplicated the other one, down to a sort of unsaturated, dirty brown, sort of a dirt color where everything looks good. And once again, no specular on this because I don't think we really need it. Slap that on there, click off, and there we go. We now have our very, very basic earth with colors, with water, with dirt. And there's really not that much left to do, honestly, other than a few things like making these mountains and these trees. There's really not that much left to do. So, like I said, we're gonna start with this mountain because I feel like that's a lot of the hardest parts are around this mountain here. So we're gonna be doing a very simple technique, very similar to what we did before. And before we do any of that, I'm actually gonna set up a camera so I know what angle I want things to be at. I think this is a very good angle. And to obviously set up a camera, click the camera icon, boom, you're good. And going into that camera, I can tell that this is sort of the area that we need the mountain to be. So with the selection surface selection and the sphere that is the land selected, to sort of select the area you want to be a mountain, right click, actually don't even right click, just use the movement arrow tools, drag it out a little bit. What am I saying? Yes, extrude it. Just extrude that out there. And then with the the tool that you use to shrink and resize things, just shrink it down to roughly what you think a mountain size should be. So once again, we extruded that out and then shrunk it down simply by selecting the points that we'd like to do that to. I'm sorry for making that a bit confusing. I haven't used Cinema 4D in a while, and I'm kind of out of practice, so hopefully this tutorial is going good. But as you can see, very simple mountain shape right there already. That's exactly what we wanted. And of course, you can mess around, make it look however you want, and that's really it. So from there, go back to our surface selection tool. Select all the points that we want to be covered in snow. I'm just going to make sure I'm out of the camera. And I might as well do it all the way around, like I said, in case you are doing a 3D Earth. And if you are doing a 3D Earth where you're going to be animating it, you might as well get these brown parts all the way around as well. But for the sake of this video, I don't really think we need to. And now that this is all selected, we're going to make another layer. And you guessed it, guys, we're just going to make it a bit of an off-white. As for the snow, slap that on there. And voila, we got a nice little icy mountain right there. Now on this side, we do the same thing, just make it a dirt mountain. And yeah, let's just jump into that right now. The exact same thing, exact same technique. I'm just going to find where we can see it on this side of the Earth. So once again, having our surface selection tool on the correct sphere and just going to where we need to add this mountain. So I'm going to put it right here. And that's an extra spot that we don't need. Control click to get that off there. And I'm just trying to burn some of these techniques into your mind, because once they're in there for good. And I know it's not the easiest thing to remember all of these crazy keyboard commands. There's a lot of them that you have to know when you're doing Photoshop and Cinema 4D. So I'm just going to try and keep repeating them as much as I can. We're going to extrude this by holding the left click button, of course, and dragging sideways to whichever way it needs to be dragged out. Drag it out about yay much. I'm just going to see if that looks good, because I don't want this one to be too big. And then, of course, shrinking it down with the shrink resize tool. So that looks a little not right at all. I'm just going to rotate that a bit, just so it's a bit more mountainy, and resize it correspondingly, because it is a little whack right now. Whatever looks good with yours, honestly. Working with low poly, you really do not ever have to be very specific as to what you're doing. And in my opinion, that looks good enough. And once again, like before, just going to be going around control or shift clicking and getting all that, slapping on that brown texture, which I believe I used the same. No, I didn't actually. You know, we're making a different texture for this. So what I'm going to be doing is just making a bit of a lighter brown, nothing as aggressive, something like that or so. And slap that on, just because I don't want it to be standing out too much. And that's that. So now we have our two mountains, our water running through, and if we go back to this image, we have clouds and trees and whatnot, which make this stand out. But one of the biggest things that makes it stand out as well is the fact that there's these little triangles sticking out everywhere, and that's the next thing we're going to be tackling, because that makes a very, very big difference in this image, I find. And let's go do that right now. One thing I do want to do first, though, is actually add in a bit more snow, because I feel like we don't have enough snow here. Just because this mountain feels a little bit lonely. So we'll just slap some of that on. There we go. So selecting the sphere, what we're just going to do is select a few little triangles, wherever they may be, whatever you want to extrude pretty much. Select them, and then right click, extrude, and just bring them out a little bit. It really is as simple as that. And then of course you can get other ones that you want to put in. So we'll just, holding shift, select whatever we want to go in, and right click that, extrude, even though we were already on it, and just sort of sink it in. And already that gives it a lot more texture, a lot more feel. The one thing that I do want to comment on is right here in the snow, we kind of want to go around that and make sure that the surfaces of these are actually, oh, this is going to be hard. We're going to have to zoom in quite a bit. Make sure the surfaces of these are actually snowy as well, because we don't want it to be grass, and that just looks kind of weird. So going around, and of course making sure to hold shift when doing so, slap some snow onto there, zoom out, and it's already looking a lot better. So I'm just going to give this a quick little render just to make sure everything's looking good. Yep. And I'm going to start adding in some lighting effects. Now what I did for my lighting was I literally just put in a physical sky, messed around with that, and found something that looked good. So just mess around with the time and location on your physical sky. And if you need to, rotate the whole thing. I know that it's definitely not something you're going to find right away. So as you can see, like the lightest part of the day is making this whole thing dark. So I'm going to just rotate. Oh, let me click off. The whole object, of course. Rotate the whole object into the light. Grab my camera and rotate it along with it, because I want to make sure that it's in a good viewpoint of everything. And like I said, I think it was roughly like this, something like that. As far as render settings go, it can literally be anything that you think looks good. I'm just going to be going in here, adding in global illumination, of course, which just makes everything look better, and ambient inclusion, putting it up to about 2%. And we're going to give that a quick render, and let's see how that looks when it's done. So of course, there's a few things that I really like and a few things that I don't like too much. The first thing is these inner extrusions. I'm not a big fan of, so I'm going to try and get rid of those. For the most part, at least. I know there's a few of them that I didn't like. For example, this one right here. So what I mean by that is the extrusions that went in. So I'm just going to go around finding the ones that went in like so, and I don't even know if there's any more. I can't find any more. So I'm just going to go to extrude that out a little bit. And some of these were just way too far in. I don't really know. I'm just going to drag those back in a little bit because that was too far. These are all way too far. If you look back at this image, they're very subtle. And I felt like the ones that we made here was a little too intense. So I'm just going to push them back in. And of course, it's still going to have that effect. It just won't be as crazy, which is good because crazy isn't always the best thing every single time. So that's that. The earth is looking a bit better. The render itself, I feel like, doesn't exactly need a lot of ambient inclusion. I'm going to bring it down to -5% because I don't really want it to be a very dark image. And the only thing that's really missing here are the trees themselves, and these trees as well, and the little homes. So I'm actually just going to be covering how to make the clouds in this one because I have covered both of these kinds of trees before. The real simple thing about these trees is literally just a cone on top of a cone with different colors. And these trees, like I said, I have done another tutorial, so I will actually link that. So I just want to cover the clouds in this one itself. So what we're going to be doing for the clouds is just sort of bringing in spheres, of course, because they are clouds. Shrinking them down quite a bit to about 25 would be good for this. Changing them to the same sort of circular type. Then we're just going to drop the segments down to something like 14. Make sure, of course, we delete the Fong tag. And once again, perfect render needs to be checked off. From here, all I really want to do is add a few things such as a MoGraph, Effector, and Random. Slap that on there. Go into the Deformer tab, turn on Polygon, and that's crazy. We do not want that. Just lower everything under parameter down to whatever looks good. A little cloud-like, a little crazy. And slap on our white texture onto that, or whatever color you'd like. It really doesn't matter. Then, of course, just shrink it down. Duplicate it by holding Control or Command and dragging up. Moving the cloud over. Resizing it. Changing the random effector to whatever you'd like. Because that's a cool thing. You can really change it to whatever you want, and it's just going to give it a nice little look. So that's cool. What am I doing here? Yeah, make sure you have that selected, of course, rather than the randomizer itself. And I'm just going to slap in one more for good measure. Change the size. Bring it up. Move it right around there or so. And I'm just going to press Alt-G to put them into a group. This way, what I can do is I can put the clouds over here, duplicate that null, put these clouds over here, a bit higher, duplicate this one, and bring it down and up front. I think that looks good. We're going to go with that. And the way that it's sort of positioned is they're all over the place, really, so it looks pretty good in my opinion. So all we really have to do from here is mess around with the positioning and the lighting, and then we'll render it out and send it to Photoshop. Like I said, if you need to know how to do those trees or the homes, just check out my other tutorials. The links will be on screen or in the description. But I'm just going to mess around with the lighting settings, and I'll come back as soon as I'm done figuring out what looks best with this image. Alright, so I found a good angle, and the only thing I really did was go to the physical sky and change the hours to be a bit darker on this side, which doesn't really make a huge difference. One last thing I want to do before we export this to Photoshop is actually add a deformer, which is under this little purple quarter pipe thing. I'm going to add a displacer. drag that under the sphere, and what this is going to do is just make everything a little out of place. So we're going to go to shading under the displacer, go to shader and change it to noise, and obviously you can do some crazy things with that. If you want to blow up your world, you can do that, but we're just going to be changing it very, very subtly to about a 5 or so, which it really isn't going to do that much, and that's pretty much it. So we're going to be rendering this out. I'm going to go to output, change it to about, I don't know, let's say 1500. That is not a 1. 1500 by 1500. I am actually going to be going to save now. Make sure alpha channel's on unless you want the background just to be what the sky is. Personally, I want to change it, add something else into it with Photoshop, and I'm going to change this to a PNG, which is necessary to have a alpha channel background. From there, I'm just going to save it as something random. I don't really care. It's going to be on my desktop. Easy to find. And we're just going to make sure the positioning is right now that we've resized it, which I believe is okay. And I'm going to hit render, and we'll see what it looks like once we're actually inside of Photoshop. So I'll be right back, and yeah, hopefully we'll make it look pretty good in there. So this is the image that we've actually come up with. Not bad in my opinion, and if we actually have a little side-by-side view with the image that we made before, the only real differences, like I said, are the trees that we made, which there is a tutorial, like I said, for the millionth time that you can go check out, because I know a lot of you guys probably really want to add in those extra trees and those extra things, but the world itself does look pretty darn similar if you ask me. So we're going to be slapping that into Photoshop, making a few changes, and just making it look more mysterious and more like it's in space. So we are going to actually use a few stock images that I have. Everything I do use is from MediaMilitia.com, so make sure to check them out. I'm not really sponsored by them or anything like that, but they do really, really, really good packs, and everything's free there, so might as well go check them out, get some free stuff. So I just slapped it in there. I'm going to be making a new layer, putting it behind, and this is going to be a very, very basic solid color. I just want a dark purple, like in the last one. I'm just going to paint that on there. And of course, maybe even just resize this just so it's in the center. Like so. Even drag out the ruler guides, I guess. If you don't have the ruler guides, press Command or Control R, and they should pop up. And I just drag them out. So that's the center. That's pretty centered if you ask me. And the one thing that I do want to do is actually there's a few things I want to do. I'm going to first of all add a few adjustment layers. So the first thing I'm going to do is add some curves. Just sort of mess around with the coloring themselves. Don't want it to be too dark. One of the cool things I like to do is go into blue and drag the top down a little bit and the bottom up a little bit, just so it gives a nice little blue tint to everything. And then of course just mess around with everything however you'd like it to. Then go to hue and saturation if you'd like. Change a few of the colors. Obviously I like more unsaturated colors. This I'm going to drag down a bit and then bring the saturation down a little bit as well. And that should be good for that. Now, what I really want to do, though, is go into some of the packs that I have here and start slapping some things on there. So I just need to find my texture pack. Like I said, everything's from MediaMilitia.com. Absolutely amazing website. I'm going to grab this sort of grungy, old paper look, and we're going to just overlay that on top of everything. It's a very, very big image, so I'm just going to drag it out. Really no risk with losing quality here. And that should be good. Setting this to whatever I think looks best in this situation. Obviously, everything is just trial and error, messing with the blending options. I'm gonna try out soft light and then bring down the opacity a little bit. Make that a bit bigger, perhaps. And that sort of gives it a nice grungy look, as well as there's another texture in here that I really like, which is this one, which we can be using as stars, I guess. At least that's what I'm going to be trying to do. And just dragging that to the right size, putting it underneath our planet. And since it's a black background, I'm going to be setting it to screen, dropping the opacity a little bit. And those are just some sort of, I guess, moving stars. Not the most convincing looking stars, but it's what I did for the last one. I thought it turned out pretty good. I think overlay looks better overall. So that's that, and a few other things. I'm going to make a new layer just to make things a bit darker. Change our foreground color to black. I always like to do this, which is just sort of go around the edges and darken everything, especially just the top and the bottom. And then from there, go and change it to overlay or whatever you think is going to end up looking good. I really like soft light. I feel like that's looking very, very good. And just mess around with whatever you'd like. I mean, there might be other textures I could throw in there which makes it look even better. I might just want to leave it at that. Throw in some text, make it look cool. The real thing that makes this cool is that you can do so many things with it. It's a whole planet condensed into the very few things you can put on it, whether it's a river, a mountain, trees, homes, whatever you want. I've been thinking of doing a series of these where I have a bunch of different worlds revolving around different themes, so it's really whatever you'd like. That's pretty much it, guys. That's everything I can explain to you. It all comes down to preference. And hopefully you guys did learn something really cool in this tutorial. Hopefully you guys can go out there, make something awesome, do something really cool, making a unique planet that you can call yours. And I would absolutely love to see what you guys make. Make sure to send me a link. You guys always send me links whenever I do a tutorial, and I really appreciate that. So send me a link as to whatever you make with this stuff. I'd love to see it. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this tutorial. A like, subscription, and a comment will go a long way. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.